welcome to Fruitful Possession. My name is Sister Jemima from the House of Jacob. Today's class will cover miscarriages, but before that class begins, I'd like to share with you a few news clips regarding abortion, a controversial topic that happened in the news about 10 years ago. Of course, we always hear about it all the time, but to help to inform you about today's class, I'd like you to review the next few news clips. So let's get started.
According to the Guttmacher Institute, 59% of American women who have abortions are already mothers. They know how hard the job is.
It took me 10 hours to get to this clinic. My area, Mississippi, it didn't have a clinic for abortion, so I had to look to my hometown I'm from to see if they would do it for me, but they told me I was too far along. A lot of people are stopping at 9 weeks and 12 weeks, and I'm 17. Right now I'm kind of relying on government assistance until I find a job, so I just didn't have the money for the abortion. So that's why it took me so long. That is $460. I paid $600 total. I just had a birthday, so I took some of the birthday money I had. And it was also a fear, like my mom, she doesn't believe in abortion. So I need you to sign this form here. I have a 6-month-old baby. It's just a lot that goes with taking care of one child, let alone two. I said, I can't do it. I can't do it again, not by myself. Like my child's father, he's not as involved as he should be. So yeah. Before I came, I was kind of scared. I'm like, I hope it's not a sketchy clinic, but everybody's so nice. The place is clean.
Hi, how you doing?
Cramping up.
Okay, you cramping a little bit? What I want to do is give you some medicine, have it put it in your cheeks.
So just let it.
Just put it in your cheeks, don't swallow it.
Dissolve.
Yeah, just put it in your cheeks.
Well, I wasn't really planning on staying as long as I did. When I came in Tuesday, I thought that I was going to be gone by Thursday, which was yesterday. But it didn't happen like that. When I first came in, there was a lot of girls in here. So I guess he tried to schedule them first come, first serve. And I had to wait until today to get the procedure done.
Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Deep breaths.
Your cervix is dilated the way I need it to be. So this is when you start to feel something to pull it.
Miss Gloria, the operator of this clinic, I'm happy that she fought to keep it open. A lot of young ladies like me don't have a second chance to even look to other places to get this done, so I'm kind of happy about that.
Yeah, man.
My situation I have back home with my kid is all I'm thinking about.
Tell me what you want him to be when he grows up. What do you want for his life?
I'm sorry, I'm about to start crying, but I just want him to be better than me. I kind of went through it like growing up or whatever, as far as my parents, and I just want him to be better than me. I was in the streets a lot. I've actually just kind of sort of got out the streets like a few years ago, and I just want him to be better than me.
Dr. Kermit Gosnell left the courthouse this afternoon a convicted murderer in a prison jumpsuit and handcuffs. Prosecutors say Gosnell regularly delivered babies alive at his West Philadelphia abortion clinic and then cut their spinal cords with scissors, killing them. Gosnell's defense attorney, Jack McMahon, says he and his client do not believe there was enough evidence that any of the fetuses were murdered.
That state of mind is As any intelligent human being would be at this point in time, he's disappointed and he's upset.
But 8 former employees who assisted Gosnell, despite the fact that they had no medical training, pleaded guilty to lesser charges and testified they did see various signs of life before the babies were killed. Gosnell was also found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in the death of 41-year-old Kanamaya Monger. She was 19 weeks pregnant when she visited Gosnell's clinic in 2009. She died after receiving what prosecutors said was an overdose of anesthesia. Gosnell's clinic served mostly poor women. After the facility was raided in 2010, photos showed unsafe and unsanitary conditions. The case has fueled arguments on both sides of the abortion debate. Opponents of abortion rights say Gosnell's practice was not an aberration and highlights the need, they say, for stricter regulation of abortion clinics. Yet supporters of abortion rights argue Gosnell's practice was an exception, an extreme case, they say, that demonstrates the need for women to have access to safe, legal abortions.
Gosnell will be sentenced next Tuesday. Scott, prosecutors are asking for the death penalty.
Michelle, thank you. The verdict is in. Dr. Kermit Gosnell is guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of babies born alive in his abortion clinic in Philadelphia. Also, he was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter for the death of a woman who came to him for an abortion, 21 counts of aborting the unborn 24 weeks or older, that's the cutoff in Pennsylvania, and 211 counts of violation of informed consent. Now, whenever we discuss this case, we have to warn viewers that the details are gruesome. Gosnell ran a ghoulish abortion clinic for decades in Philadelphia until the feds raided it in 2010 on suspicion of prescription drug dealing. What they found inside, of course, was far, far worse. Bloody blankets, dirty surgical tools, bags holding aborted fetuses. Prosecutors gathered evidence that showed Gosnell snipped the spinal cords of infants during abortions he was performing. Joining me now from Philadelphia, CNN legal analyst Sunny Hostin. Sunny, welcome. You reported that the prosecutor was sobbing as the verdict was read. What was Gosnell's reaction?
You know, initially he appeared not to have a reaction, Jake, and I actually stayed behind after the verdict came in and walked up to the well of the courtroom, and I did look at Dr. Gosnell, and he appeared, in my view, to be shocked. He was upset. He sort of let out a sigh and was shaking his head back and forth. Certainly, after the jury read his verdict, and as you just mentioned, it was an extensive verdict, he was, in my view, pretty shocked.
And Sonny, this was a really graphic case, a lot of evidence that was very difficult to get through. How did that affect the jurors, do you think?
You know, I think that the jury knew what they were getting into. I mean, there was voir dire in this case, but I've seen some of the evidence in this case, some of the photographs that were part of the grand jury report, and I've seen a lot of gruesome things, having been a federal prosecutor. I've covered many, many cases, and I can't unsee those pictures, and I would imagine that the jury had a tough time with it. This is one of the more gruesome cases that I've seen, and Jake, I'm not only a lawyer, I'm a mother, and seeing some of the photos of the babies, seeing some of the photos of the incisions on the back of their necks with their spinal cords snipped, it was tough. It was difficult, and if it was difficult for me, someone who's used to seeing these kinds of things, I can only imagine how difficult it may have been for the jury.
Shalom. Welcome to Fruitful Possession. My name is Sister Jemima from the House of Jacob. Welcome to the Sisters of Israel. Today's class will cover miscarriages, or what's commonly known as a spontaneous abortion. This education class today is only for educational purposes, and I recommend that you consult with your doctor or midwife for medical advice. We are not giving medical advice. But let's get right down to it. So I'm going to go over, I'm actually referring from a book called Heart and Hands. It's written by an author called Elizabeth Davis, A Midwife's Guide to Pregnancy and Birth. And this is the 3rd edition, revised and updated. I'm on page 56 of this book, and the title of that section is called Miscarriage or Abortion. So if you've ever experienced a miscarriage, or you know of a family member that experienced a miscarriage, which is also called a spontaneous abortion. This may be interesting for you. This may be a good class for you. So on page 56, I'm reading from the top. It says, the proper technical term for miscarriage occurring before 20 weeks is spontaneous abortion. Beyond this point, it is termed fetal demise. In the vast majority of cases, the cause of spontaneous abortion is abnormal development of the fetus or placenta due to chromosomal abnormalities. Less commonly, a mother may miscarry due to viral infection, severe malnutrition, substance abuse, or an antibody effect towards the father's sperm. So, of course, this is all because of the Most High. For the foremost part, it is, caused by the Most High. If you ever experience a miscarriage, or what's also known as a spontaneous abortion, that's of the Most High. So let me go over. Some scriptures with you before we go any further, because I mentioned if you ever had experience of a miscarriage or an abortion, it could be very emotional to you. It could grieve your heart as well, and you may want to know why. Why did this happen? So you may hear about a lot of medical conditions that may cause a miscarriage, but let's go to the Bible. And I, as a sister, am teaching sisters. I'm just sharing my talent, whatever level you're at. If you have a good talent, if you have a talent and you want to share it in righteousness, all praises to the Most High and Son Jesus Christ, all praises. We thank you for that. So let me go to first the book of Titus 2, so you can know what I'm doing as an aged sister. So Titus chapter 2, 3 through 5. The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. So I'm just sharing my talent. I'm teaching you what I've learned, and I'm going to go on to the book of Psalms 34, verses 18 and 19, regarding what we just talked about for some causes of a missed abortion. The Most High has answers to everything. I'll praise the Most High in His Word. So Psalms 34, verse 18. The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivereth him out of them all. So, this could be a very devastating time. You learned that you were pregnant, and this could be your first pregnancy, or you've had a history of miscarrying in the past, and this pregnancy may have gone a little further than the others, and then you find out some devastating news that you lost your baby. And it could be a very depressing moment for you, because you were looking forward to having that child. But the Most High made a decision that, that birth would not happen, or that pregnancy would not go forth. So I'm going to read one more scripture, because that could cause depression. It could cause guilt. You may have thought that you did something wrong. Maybe you didn't eat something right. If you ate lawful food, of course, but if you didn't, that would be the best thing, all praises. But you would feel like, well, maybe you were working too much. You may have done something wrong, but it was all of the Most High. And He controls that. So I'm going to go to my other book, the Apocrypha, that normally comes into the 1611 King James Bible, but I have, my Apocrypha separate in this particular instance. So I'm going to go to the book of Sirach chapter 30, verses 21 through 24. And it says, "Give not over thy mind to heaviness, and afflict not thyself in thine own counsel. The gladness of the heart is the life of man, and the joyfulness of a man prolongeth his days. Love thine own soul, and comfort thy heart. Remove sorrow far from thee, for sorrow hath killed many, and there is no profit therein. Envy and wrath shorten the life, and carefulness bringeth age before the time." So you don't want it to weigh on your minds, like years down the road. Sometimes some sisters can hold on to it for a long time. But the Most High decided that was going to happen. But if that's going to happen, it's always a good idea to know why with the scriptures. So I'm going to read some more in this book on page 56 of this same book. I'm going to read you different types of abortion. So we did talk about a miscarriage abortion. That's miscarriage or spontaneous abortion. That's when it happens. The Most High doesn't allow it to come. It just the body rejects it. It's releasing the fetus because it's not a healthy one for whatever reason it is. Now I'm gonna mention something called threatened abortion. Threatened abortion, and I'm on page 56 of the same book, Heart and Hands. Threatened abortion is presumed whenever the mother has vaginal bleeding in the first half of pregnancy, particularly if combined with cramping or persistent backache. So you may have experienced like a backache, different types of backache, cramping, and you may have been just having a lot of vaginal bleeding. You were trying your best to rest. You were trying everything. You were going to your appointments with the midwife or the doctor, the midwife or the OBGYN doctor. You tried everything. You took your prenatal vitamins. You did everything you could. You were active, in a good way while you were pregnant, but you just experienced a lot of vaginal bleeding. So it says, threatened abortion is presumed whenever the mother has vaginal bleeding in the first half of pregnancy, particularly if combined with cramping or persistent backache. But keep in mind that 1 in 4 women experience bleeding in the first trimester, while only 1 in 10 actually abort. So, as you can see, it says, a lot of normal, healthy pregnancies. In a lot of normal, healthy pregnancies, you can experience some vaginal bleeding. And that's normal, but it says only 1 in 10 actually go on and abort. With threatened miscarriage, because you're having vaginal bleeding, blood loss may be either dramatic or slight. Dramatic is like heavy, it can be heavy, like whoosh, come out really quickly. Or slight, but continuous for days or weeks. So you may experience it where you are just bleeding constantly all the time. Baby didn't come out, the abortion didn't take, the spontaneous abortion, which is also known as a miscarriage, didn't occur, but you're experiencing a lot of vaginal bleeding. And this is not just going on for 1 day or 2 days. It's like coming like for a couple of weeks, or you just have a trickle of blood, and it's happening almost every day for a couple of weeks, all the time. Inevitable abortion ensues if the membranes rupture or if the cervix dilates. So if the cervix dilates, right? So you ever hear there's an expression, effacement and dilation. That's when the cervix is thinning out and opening up. It's widening. So if it's widening, something wants to come out. Your body wants to push something out. So it's getting it prepared. So inevitable abortion ensues if the membranes rupture or if the cervix dilates. So if the cervix doesn't start thinning out and opening up, or the membranes don't rupture, but you have some thin bleeding, then it's not considered a threatened abortion. But if you ever experience anything like that, any kind of vaginal bleeding, a light trickle or heavy bleeding, call your doctor immediately and go to the hospital. If it's like heavy bleeding, call them and go. We have to go with new protocols now because of COVID-19. But call them. They have a lot of providers that are doing like online virtual appointments, which is nice. And you can explain your symptoms, and they'll tell you whether you need to go right away to the doctor, right away to the emergency room, right away to the midwife. The midwife may even come to your house. Depends on, the rules. Okay, so it says, is there any intervention that can keep a threatened miscarriage from becoming inevitable? This is a good question. You want to know, well, gee, I'm pregnant. I'm not bleeding. I'm not spotting. But you know what? Is there anything I can do ahead of time? I'll praise the Most High to try to reduce my chances of this happening. Or maybe you had a miscarriage before, but this pregnancy is going much, much further. And you want to see, okay, it's going really well right now. There's just some extra things I can do. It says, is there any intervention that can keep a threatened miscarriage from becoming inevitable? So in this particular case, you have a little spotting, and of course you want to, if you start seeing something like that, contact your midwife or your doctor and let them know right away. And then it says, probably not, but certain measures may be worth a try. Of course, you want to consult with your midwife or your doctor if you want to try something like this, because I'm only teaching for educational purposes only. If symptoms are acute, which is, it's real short, it just started right away, because acute is short term, and chronic, if you hear that word, is long term, could happen in 6 months or longer. If symptoms are acute, recommend bed rest. So if you're spotting, the first thing you do is sit down right away. Rest. Stop what you're doing. You may have been overexerting yourself. If symptoms are acute, recommend bed rest and complete cessation of all sexual activity. Of course, we have laws concerning when you're bleeding, and that is discussed in another class that we have, as well as other, righteous brothers that can teach you the Bible on that. But there's a section that talks about bleeding, and you're supposed to stay away from your husband for a certain time. So I'm not teaching that. You could go on and look at one of our other classes. We have a class called, I think it's called something to do with aftercare after birth. So you want to look at that. It tells you, like, when you're on your menstrual cycle, how you're supposed to stay away from your husband for up until the 8th day if you're not bleeding. You go over and go over that class. That's very helpful. It talks about even if you have a boy child or a girl child, what to do as well. So there's rules, even though we go to the hospital and they tell you, oh, okay, well, you're on your cycle, okay. Or you just heard your baby, okay, don't have sex for like 2 weeks or whatever. They might say, it depends on what's going on. Or like maybe 3 to 4 weeks, you got to heal up. Or they don't tell you, like, after you're bleeding, to stay away from your husband for a certain amount of time, because they're not coming out of God's laws. They're just talking about the condition or something, and that's it. But you want to know based on God's law. Well, gee, I didn't know. I have my period, or I'm bleeding, and it's subsiding, but I'm still dealing with my husband. You want to be able to follow God's laws. There's rules on that. Okay, so it says, is there any intervention that can keep a threatened miscarriage from becoming inevitable? Probably not, but certain measures may be worth a try. If symptoms are acute, recommend bed rest and complete cessation of all sexual activity. So you're not supposed to be dealing with your husband anyway if you are bleeding. If there is cramping without bleeding, a glass of water may halt uterine activity and forestall a miscarriage. But if it does become inevitable, console the mother as best she can and focus on helping her through the physical aspects of the process. So, it can happen right away, as you can hear, as you heard. It may have it at home. You might experience a miscarriage right at home. So, oh my God, I'm losing my baby. I'm losing my baby. I tried so hard, I'm losing my baby. But remember, it is of the Most High. There's nothing you can do about it. You don't blame yourself. You don't give your mind over to heaven. As you mourn, start to mourn for, a few days, but don't feel guilty about it because the Most High made you. Most High made your arms, your legs, your body. He knows who you are. If He doesn't want that baby to come through, there's a reason for it. Because He does all. He controls all. All right, so let's talk about what you may see. We need to talk about this because if you're going to go through a miscarriage, a spontaneous miscarriage where you didn't elect to have the miscarriage, this is something that happened naturally. Your body naturally rejected it. The Most High said, no, it's not coming for whatever reason, and that is just going to happen. And many women go through this. Many women of all ages go through this. Many women go on to have healthy children as well. They may have had lots of children, everything went fine, and all of a sudden, this one pregnancy, it didn't go well, and then they lost a child, and then they had a baby again, or they just lost the pregnancy. The fetus did not make it. So let's talk about where does it happen? How does it happen? What am I going to see? Well, it says if she wishes to go through her miscarriage at home. Because sometimes you might find out that the baby's going to come out. You don't want to have a surgery, right? You don't want to say, cut him out, cut the baby out, whatever. Someone will induce you. You don't want that. You just say, no, I want to, I'll do it at home. Or it may just happen at home. You may not have elected for it to be at home. You might be saying, okay, the baby's not going to make it. No, the baby's not going to make it. You're bleeding heavily. You might go to the doctor and you're bleeding heavily, and it's just not going to make it. So, and it's inevitable. It's definitely going to happen, but it didn't happen at the doctor's office. So you go home and know that it's going to come soon. You just don't know when. So I'm going to read this passage to you. Now I'm on page 57. So I'm on 56. I was reading 56 about miscarriage, spontaneous abortion, and threatened abortion, and inevitable abortion. Now I'm going on to page 57 of Heart and Hands. And I'm going to read this to you so you can see what kind of things you might see when this happens. It just happens at your home. Sometimes you're away. You may be going over another family member's house. You may be out somewhere. This could just happen just like that. It doesn't always happen at home. But I'm going to read this to you. If she wishes to go through her miscarriage at home, be certain she is not anemic, and keep close watch for possible hemorrhage. Let's talk about that anemic thing before I go any further, because that runs in the Israelite community. There's a lot of people that deal with that. Now, I'm not sponsoring this book, but I want to tell you about this book. It's really good. It's from Midwifery Today. It's a little handbook called the Hemorrhage Handbook. Midwifery Today Holistic Clinical Series. So I'm going to read some things about it. If she wishes to go through her miscarriage at home, be certain she is not anemic and keep close watch for possible hemorrhage. So I'm not going to stay too long on this book because we want to stay with the topic. But if you can get this book, it talks about anemia, different types of anemia, and natural remedies that the Most High have through herbs, lawful herbs that you can use through like a tea or a tincture that really helps with hemorrhaging. It really helps with it. And so I'm just going to list, let me see if I can, so here's something called postpartum blood loss. So postpartum is after you have the baby, right? That's after you have the baby. It could be a lot of bleeding. You may have pushed out the placenta. You got a lot of bleeding going on. You lost a lot of blood. So they talk about things like nettles tea that help. Nettles tea, I think there's other words, hops, raspberry leaf tea. It's really good. So I suggest you read over that. It talks about anemia, diagnosis and treatment, and prevention. And then they give you a list of very valuable and useful natural herbs. So it says herbal remedies for postpartum hemorrhage. I'm on page 31 of this book. It's talking about shepherd's purse and alfalfa, so it wasn't actually hops. They didn't mention that yet. Shepherd's purse and alfalfa tea are good treatments. It's an anti-hemorrhage tincture. So a tincture is like a little bottle. You can make a tea, but this is a tincture. Shepherd's purse and alfalfa are excellent for treatment when it's actually happening. And prevention, to prevent it, nettles, alfalfa, and raspberry leaf tea. It says drink 3 to 6 cups daily through pregnancy, but consult with your midwife or your doctor, because midwives may say, no, I don't want you taking that during the first trimester. I don't want you taking that during the second trimester. I like you to start in the third trimester because of certain reasons, you know, as you hear about those spontaneous abortions where the first 20 weeks could be really crucial. Because on page 56 it says, of the Hearts and Hands book, it says, the proper technical term for miscarriage occurring before 20 weeks is spontaneous abortion. So that can happen too. And they don't want you to take any chances, things like that. So you want to consult with them. So, alfalfa, you can, if you don't like hot tea, you can make cold tea. They have alfalfa tablets. You want to get the right type. And you want to check into, just mention these things to your midwife. Can I take raspberry tea? Is that good? Because it's a really good uterine tonic. It keeps things really nurtured down there, And I heard it, actually not heard, I've read it. It reduces the amount of time that you're in labor. Like a lot of pregnancies, when it's time to deliver the baby, the labor can be 10 hours, 11 hours. In a lot of cases, it doesn't go past 12 hours in labor. So you want to, you want to really check that out. So I suggest you read this book. Okay, let's get back to this. Let's get back to Hearts and Hands. Page 57. If she wishes to go through her miscarriage at home, be certain she is not anemic and keep close watch for possible hemorrhage. 2 cups of blood is the maximum safe blood loss. So when it's happening, 2 cups is normal. But if miscarriage extends for more than a day or 2, so it's happening, the body's pushing it out, but it's taking longer than expected, the mother is at risk for infection and must check her temperature several times daily. Persistent bleeding or pain are signs she must see a physician to determine whether the abortion is complete. So you still got to be examined by a midwife or a OBGYN doctor. Everything has been shed. You want to make sure everything's out. No loose fragments still inside of you, because you can have internal infection, internal hemorrhage. She may also wish to save remnants of her miscarriage. So, I'm not going to go on any further, but that is pretty much it as far as the miscarriage or spontaneous abortion. Now we're going to go on to the elective type of abortion. Okay, so before we go into the elective type of abortion, let's go a little bit further. I just looked at something here. Let's go a little bit further on page 57, because it's going to talk about some more issues you may notice because of a miscarriage. Occasionally, women have light bleeding for many weeks with no distinct episode of resolution. This may be due to missed abortion, i.e. the fetus has died but is retained in utero. Now this can happen. This happens with a lot of women. So if this ever happens to you, remember, don't give their mind over to heaviness. You may not realize it happened. And of course, the Most High does all. He's in control of everything. And and all praise to the Most High, you're fine. Your body is doing the normal things that would happen with a missed abortion. So it says this may be due to missed abortion, i.e. the fetus has died but is retained in utero. The mother may notice that her breasts have returned to their normal size or that she has lost several pounds. Upon examination, her uterus may seem scarcely normal sized or may be small for dates. The most conclusive sign of missed abortion is lack of fetal activity and or heart tones. In case of suspected missed abortion, it is important to make a determination via sonogram as soon as possible. Although rare before 20 weeks, coagulation disorders such as disseminated intravascular coagulation may result from retained products of conception. Seriously complicating the termination of pregnancy with risk of catastrophic internal bleeding. The incidence of disseminated intravascular coagulation increases exponentially the longer the mother has been pregnant and the longer the fetus is retained after it has died. So in our community, you hear about infant mortality, maternal mortality. So it could be from all kinds of things. Even this as well. You're not getting the care that you need. You need to go to those appointments. You need to call your midwife. There's no silly question. You need to have a great support team around you. Have someone that's reliable, not somebody that's fun to hang around. I like this person. She would be great at my birth. No. Titus 2:3-5. You want somebody that's responsible. You may have your baby late at night. This person may be horrible to come around you at night. You need a great support team. Great support team around you. All right, so also let's see where we go here. Let's see. Okay, so some of the signs from this is if a client with signs of missed abortion notes excessive bleeding from the gums, the nose, or minor injury site, she is extremely high risk. So a lot of our sisters die giving birth, they die in pregnancy. These are the kind of things that they're not aware of. We have so many other things we have to deal with. Right? But if you are around some really good sisters, some righteous sisters, right? Just dependable family. All praises to the Most High. You need to know things like this. If you don't go to these appointments, if you don't just call your midwife, notice your body. Notice what's going on in your body. These things can happen. These are several key elements that will cause maternal mortality or infant mortality. Things like this. Have her seen by a backup physician immediately. So when you start seeing things like this, you're pregnant, bleeding, any spotting, just keep contacting your midwife. Keep letting your family know, your supportive family know. Let your husband know what's going on the whole time. Keep him informed. He may be at work and he really wants to be there when you have maybe your conversation with the midwife, but he's at work. You might be at work too, and you still want to keep everybody. You want to keep your core support team informed. You check out your body too. You make sure everything is fine. And if there's problems, of course, you make sure you take this advice and whatever great advice you get while you're pregnant, while you're going through the situation, and use them. And dwell on scriptures. Definitely dwell on scriptures and your favorite teachings, really help. All right, so I'm going to read something this midwife was talking about. I'm still on page 57, and this is still about miscarriage. All this is about a miscarriage or a spontaneous type of abortion, which is the same thing. I'm on page 57 at the bottom. It says, this is a midwife. A midwife wrote this book. There's a lot of different books that you can read about this. But I like this book because it's coming from a midwife and she's sharing her different, stories. And it's a nice book. I've had one case of missed abortion in my practice. The mother came for her first visit at 18 weeks, so she was under that 20-week, realm, reporting brown spotting for the last week or so. So she had brown spotting for about a week. But I would suggest the first time you see that brown spotting or that red spotting or that heavy bleeding, you call your midwife right away. You tell your family, hey, I'm bleeding, I'm spotting. You tell your husband. So that if you're not able to contact, you got multiple contact people checking on you, making sure you're doing that, because you can't do everything yourself. You cannot do everything yourself. And like when I was growing up, people were, we didn't have a lot of cell phones around, so it's like you knew more people, and more people kind of knew about your business in the neighborhood. So now it's different. So you gotta work on it. You gotta make sure you have those contacts. You make sure you get the right people. Not like, oh, I really like this person. She'll be the best one at my my birth. She's fun, but you need someone to help you with the birth plan. You need somebody to help you with. Make sure they have the midwife's number up there and their cell phone, right? Make sure everybody has your healthcare providers in there too. And if certain things happen, make sure they know, I'm spotting, I can't call, I don't feel good, can you call? They're not bleeding, they're not spotting, they're not pregnant, so they have more energy than you, right? Because you're not feeling good. So they can do all that stuff. All right? So it says, I've had one case of missed abortion in my practice. The mother came for her first visit at 18 weeks, reporting brown spotting for the last week or so. She did have a history of previous miscarriage, although she also delivered a baby at term. So you see, you can have a history of miscarriages, and you're great with getting pregnant. All praise the Most High, and something just happens. Your body's not ready to have that baby, and the Most High doesn't let it go to full term. But then, as you can see, this woman had a history of miscarriages. It happens a lot of times with a lot of sisters. They may not tell you or share it with you. It may be bothering them, or you may be uncomfortable asking them because you don't want to offend them. You don't want to bring up any bad memories for them, so you don't discuss it. But it's very normal, when you sit, when you sit around a table, you sit in chairs around the other sisters. You ever go? If you haven't gone, they have like support groups for mothers and babies, fathers, mothers, and children, right? But in righteousness is what's good as a support team is when you go in a group and you have the father, the mother, and the newborn. They can share experiences to the other family who's getting ready to have babies in righteousness, right? So it's like having a great support group. You come to it even after you have your baby. You can bring your baby there, share it. Or even if you've gone through a bad experience like a miscarriage, you may be dwelling on the bad side of it. Oh, I lost my baby. I remember where I lost my baby. I remember the date. I remember the bleeding. I remember how I felt, the name, and all that stuff. But you know what? You can turn it into a very positive thing. The Most High did that. Where you don't share your talents. Now you probably say, that's not sharing a talent. That's a horrible thing. Well, somebody else may be pregnant. And they had a miscarriage, but they're not telling anybody. And they're in a support group, Right? Your sisters are sitting around in a chair, like a round table thing. And they're just sharing maternity stories, or they're going through their pregnancy now, how to get things ready or whatever. And somebody needed to hear that there's somebody in the room that had a history of a miscarriage, and she's fine. She's sharing her story, and then she went on to have a baby, and that baby was very healthy. And then she might have got pregnant again and had miscarriage again, but Most High blessed her with a child. Or you had a couple of miscarriages, and you just shared that story, right? That's great too. And then maybe after that, most time they bless you with a child after that. But sisters need to hear that because they want to see how strong you were. The Most High pulled you through that bad experience, that's a sad experience for you. So let's see. All right, I'm on page 57. We're still talking about missed abortion because we're going to go on to the elective type of abortion next. So it says, I've had one case of missed abortion in my practice. The mother came for her first visit at 18 weeks, reporting brown spotting for the last week or so. She did have a history of previous miscarriage, although she also delivered a baby at term, whose birth I assisted several years earlier. Her uterus felt normal size for dates. I couldn't hear the baby with the fetoscope. It's like a stethoscope you listen to listen to the heart, but a fetoscope is kind of shaped like that, but you're listening to the heartbeat inside the mother's belly by putting the scope on the mother's belly to listen for the fetal heart rate. She says, I couldn't hear the baby with the fetoscope, but was not concerned, as this is often the case until 20 weeks. So she came in at 18 weeks. So she said, okay, I cannot hear the baby's heart rate, but it's not 20 weeks yet. She's 18. This is at 20 weeks, she came in again and reported what she thought was fetal movement. But the brown discharge had been almost continuously since her last visit. This time I was alarmed at not finding the fetal heart, and although the uterus felt slightly larger than the last visit, I sent her for a sonogram. She called from the hospital to report a missed abortion. It was unclear exactly when the fetus had died, but development appeared to have arrested at 12 weeks. So it looks like the baby was sitting inside of her for almost 8 additional weeks. Sitting under her for about an extra 6 or 7 weeks, between 6 and 8 weeks longer. It died. They think it died around 12 weeks, even though she came in when she was 18 weeks pregnant. So the most high hazard was she was going around all over. She was probably still doing her activities, even though she had that discharge. And the fetus had died several weeks ago. She was screened for DIC. DIC is disseminated intravascular coagulation, and was negative. But immediately she scheduled a therapeutic abortion because she couldn't stand the agony of waiting. So she just couldn't. She didn't want to wait because what happened is it's traumatic. She's like, okay, oh my God, the baby's dead. Get this dead baby out of me. The fetus was dead. It didn't make it. So now she felt, oh my God, it's gone. It's dead. It's not even here. She felt uncomfortable. When she found out the baby was dead, she didn't want the baby inside her. She said, no, there's not a baby in me now. The baby's gone. The body is taking a while to push it out, but everything was going back to normal. Her breast, she didn't feel pregnant, even though she still had the fetus inside of her. So it says on 57, for any type of miscarriage, emotional support and counseling are crucial in follow-up. So remember discussed Ecclesiasticus chapter 30, verses 20 through 24. You dwell on those. It may feel like after you read it, well, it's a nice scripture, but it didn't take it away. You keep dwelling on it. You do your activities, you go on. Remember, it was a missed miscarriage, a spontaneous abortion. You didn't elect to remove the baby. The Most High decided that it would not go to full term. Because think about it. It says, I'm going back to page 56. In the vast majority of cases, this is for spontaneous abortion. In the vast majority of cases, the cause of spontaneous abortion is abnormal development of the fetus or placenta due to chromosomal abnormalities. Less commonly, a mother may miscarry due to viral infection, severe malnutrition, substance abuse, or an antibody effect towards the father's sperm. So if this would have went on, it would have been horrible for the baby, because the baby was going through this. So the Most High was protecting you. And you could be a great example to someone else, that's pregnant. Or you may get pregnant later. But then somebody in that group or wherever needed to hear from another sister, I lost my baby. I had a history of miscarriages. Some of them had several miscarriages. And they kept trying to get pregnant. They got pregnant finally. And they just needed to hear that from another sister. And it really helped their spirit. All right, so it says, for any type of miscarriage, emotional support and counseling are crucial in follow-up. Women often express guilt over some behavior or attitude they think may have caused the miscarriage, and many are anxious about their future prospects of carrying to term. Occasionally, miscarriage is habitual. For example, it occurs more than 3 times, in which case genetic or other factors may be at fault. Refer a woman or couple with this problem for consultation with a specialist. Studies show that women grieve as deeply with miscarriage as they do with fetal demise, stillbirth, or neonatal death. So I'll give you an example, like a sister may miscarry a baby, right? So it may be, you may not really see nothing. It's less than 20 weeks. There's a lot of blood, like a blob that came up, but you couldn't see anything. She's going to be just as devastated as a sister who brings a baby to full term and then pushes the baby out, goes through the labor, has the labor. She had everything. She had, the baby was kicking and everything. She, the whole time had those Braxton hits, the contractions came, everything. She pushed the baby out, and the baby was dead on arrival. It's stillbirth. That's devastating. She got to see the full baby, and the baby did not make it. And then in another case, neonatal death. Baby just dies. It was fine, it just dies. Feelings of shame, guilt, and embarrassment are common. They need to be validated and worked through. So feelings of shame, like thinking about what other people think of you because you lost your child. Think about, okay, you had a miscarriage. What's wrong with her? Or she had a baby, it was fine. She the baby didn't make it after that. Or maybe it was fine one minute, now the baby, died. Like, there's something called sudden unexpected infant death syndrome, where you went to full term, you had your baby, the husband, the father, and the mother saw the baby birthed, everything, cut the placenta, everything, took the baby home, baby was fine, smiling, happy, everything. And then, things happen. The baby rolls over in the crib, or, something, happens, and the baby just dies. And of course, with sudden unexpected death syndrome, statistics show that you can greatly reduce the risk for SIDS, or sudden unexpected infant death syndrome, if you breastfeed your baby up to 3 years. Definitely, breastfeed your baby. Just keep breastfeeding your baby. You will reduce those chances significantly. But you will feel a sister could feel just as bad with a miscarriage as with someone who went to full term and the baby died. And those sisters can be wonderful support and wonderful, great examples to other sisters in a round table or sharing it one-on-one with a sister with the scriptures about giving not that mind over to heaviness. That's the way to bring out that scripture and say, this is what I went through. And I had to learn this. And I went on and I didn't know this bad thing that happened to me was actually a good thing. It actually made me help other sisters. And I healed from it, all praises. So let's see, let me go back to 57. So feelings of shame, guilt, and embarrassment are common. Don't let other people decide how you're going to be, Follow things like Proverbs 31, Titus 2, 3 through 5, and other scriptures about being a righteous sister. Read this book of Judith, and read the book of Esther. Read about Sarah. Sarah couldn't have any children for a long time. Rebecca couldn't have any children for a long time in the Bible. They had to go through lots of things. Hannah had to go through. Our sister, foremother Hannah, had to go through a lot. As well as other mothers. I think John the Baptist's mother, she could not have children for a long time. Most High blessed her. So we don't know if they had miscarriages, even though they never got pregnant. We don't know what happened. We don't know if they experienced miscarriages before they got pregnant. So it's still, and they're wonderful examples of having a baby. They can do a lot of things. So you just think about the positive in it. All right, so let me go back. Let's see. Page 57. Feelings of shame, guilt, and embarrassment are common and need to be validated and worked through. Ended beginnings is an excellent reference in this regard. They're talking about a book. But I suggest all praise was on the Bible. Oh, and listening to your Israelite music, and Israelite music videos, that is a comfort. That is such a great comfort. You just go on. You just go on and say, I gotta use this as a talent. I know they say, you're gonna use that as a talent? Sharing that part with it? Yeah, because there's sisters that go through that, they need to hear that. And if you're an example where, it doesn't matter, if you have an example where you miscarry a child and you're pregnant again, you share that with your sisters. You'll gain a great support system. They want to come support you. I may not be able to do it. Maybe I'll try something for her. She helped me through my pregnancy. She helped me, all praises. All right, so now I know you heard about abortions, the elective type where you're pregnant. You're not having any vaginal bleeding. You're not having these symptoms. Let's see. In the vast majority of cases, the cause of spontaneous abortion is abnormal development. You ain't dealing with that. You're not dealing with a ruptured membrane. You don't have no heavy bleeding. You're not spotting. You didn't find out that the baby has died inside of you, and you feel you're traumatic. You can say, okay, it's gone. Take it out of me. You're not experiencing that. You just want to take it out because, I'm pregnant. I don't want to be bothered with this pregnancy right now. So, and in the cases where you've done that, and then you become a repentant Israelite, all praises for us. Because we've got sisters that came in and did that, and we shouldn't shame those sisters. They're coming in, they're trying to get their mind right, they're trying to get their spirit right. They didn't know that they were taught this. They learned this just like all different kind of women. That's what they learned. And praise the Most High, they repented, and the Most High forgive them, and they go on. And then if they happen to get pregnant in the truth, they keep their baby. But I'm talking about the ones that they get pregnant at full term. They got a very healthy pregnancy, and all of a sudden, I'm pregnant by him. Oh, I don't know. I'm pregnant. I can't go to the club no more. I can't go to the beach no more, or oh, how about this one? It's gonna mess up my body. I don't like that. I don't want to change no diapers. I don't want to. I don't want to go around with no baby. I don't want to have to carry my baby in my arms. I don't want to hear that baby crying all the time. That's interfering with my lifestyle. I want to go shopping. I want to have another boyfriend. I want to hang out with my girlfriends. I want to travel here, travel there. That's inconvenience. I don't want to do that. If I have a baby, I gotta be reminded of that father. Or nobody's gonna, I don't want no responsibility. That's gonna mess up my clothes. I gotta have a belly. I gotta have pain. I gotta do this. I gotta breastfeed. I don't want to do none of that stuff. Everybody else is doing it, but you know what? A spirit, having a spirit like that means, what if you were aborted? You couldn't even make that decision. And wherever you go, whatever you need in life, all praise from Most High, of course, that when people service you, those people weren't aborted. The services that you need, wherever you go, whether you're going to work, you have to go to the store to buy things, you need care, those people were not aborted because the Most High didn't allow it. Well, first that's the main reason. But their mothers, and it's really the father and the mother make the child, right? Or praises. But the mother will sneak off and do the abortion. It's her body. You got to take it out of her body for it to happen. So it's like, if the ones that do that and they continue to do it, not the ones that repented, that's a wonderful thing. All praises. I'm so happy when I hear sisters have a history of that, and then now they repented. They said, "Oh God, I was doing that. That was wrong." And then when you repent from that, don't give your mind over to heaviness. You did it unlawfully. You didn't know. You weren't taught right. Now you know you're Israel. You know you're from Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Zebulun, and I'm missing some of them. Simeon. The other ones, the other beautiful tribes. Israel, the house of Israel. My family from the house of Israel. That's keeping the commandments, or learning to keep the commandments, or just found out they were Israel, and they gradually trying to get their life together, just like me and everybody else that was trying to keep it. You have to start somewhere, right? But the ones that are just say, "Oh, I'm doing it because my girlfriend do it, so I do it. My people in my neighborhood do it. That's just normal. It's my body. I do what I want to do. It ain't your body. Most High owns you, and you're gonna, thou shalt not kill. You walking around because Most High let somebody think thou shalt not kill. So I'm not killing my baby. So you walking around, so you can, so you making choices like that. The person that would have come out of you could have been a doctor, a lawyer, a prophet, right? A mother, another grandmother, somebody who was a teacher, somebody who was a nurse, somebody who was a gardener, someone who was a sewer, a cook, a cleaner, an architect, a painter, a bus driver, a daycare worker, someone that needed to be there for somebody's birth, someone who needed to be there to design something. They're not there because you're electively doing it. So I'm going to show you a video on, there's a new clinic that's going to be, it may be finished by the time, it may be finished very soon, or it's already finished, but I saw this video, so this is interesting. It's a video on a clinic that's opening up in Chicago. It's for abortions. And I was thinking, oh wow, our sisters gotta stop killing our babies. Thou shalt not kill. If my mother would have been like that, I'm gonna, Jemima's gonna be a burden to me. I don't want to go through no labor. Most High had it where she, no matter what happened, Most High decided she was not going to abort me. And I got to be here now, praise Most High, because I wasn't an aborted child. And if you're watching this, and something is in your spirit to abort your child, think again, because you're stopping that life. You're stopping progress. You're allowed to come. And if you are doing it, you're being taught wrong. Now, if sometimes, like we read cases where, on page 56 and 57, where sometimes the baby has to come out of you because it's life-threatening. You're going to die if that baby does not come out of you. You can't have a dead fetus inside your belly, right? Right? Because when we went on page 57, it says, remember the woman that I read about? She was 18 weeks pregnant. She had this brown discharge coming from her vaginal area for over a week. And then she let the midwife know, right? And she found out through a sonogram that the baby's been dead for a while. When she found that out, she was traumatized. She wanted that baby out. She was depressed, scared. She was thinking it was going to hurt her body, even though her body was actually fixing it for her. She was terrified, petrified. So in those cases, sometimes the baby has to come out. You could be a cancer patient, and you found out you got pregnant, and it's going to kill you. Or you're pregnant, and you have cancer, and you're going through chemotherapy. That's going to hurt the baby. So, you see? Things like that can happen. So that's between you and the Most High with that. But if you're electively aborting a child, that's thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill. That's not like going to the store. I'm going to pick this product because I'm shopping today. And what I'm shopping today for is an abortion because I just don't want to deal with it. I don't care. I don't like it. I don't like it. And that's just the way it is. So let's go on to the video. This is a video about a clinic in Chicago. Be right back.
First on CBS, Planned Parenthood is announcing the opening of a new mega facility close to states where abortion access is restricted. The new clinic was built in secret in Illinois near the Missouri border. Missouri has some of the strictest abortion laws in the country. CBS News reporter Kate Smith visited the facility as it was being built. She's been reporting on abortion issues since last year. Kate, welcome to the table. And start us off, what's the significance of this new clinic? I keep hearing it's ginormous and big.
Exactly. So in recent months, states across the South and Midwest, they've been implementing stricter and stricter anti-abortion laws. But this new clinic is in Illinois, where the state is moving in the opposite direction.
So this is the site of our brand new building here in Illinois.
We first visited the new clinic in August. The sensitive project was being built in secret under the code name Alaska. Dr. Colleen McNicholas showed us around.
We know that our colleagues at other Planned Parenthoods and independent abortion clinics across the country have had difficulty opening new clinics. Things as simple as getting the phone company to come in and put phone and data lines. Things like the cabinet makers not showing up to deliver once they knew that that facility was going to be an abortion facility.
The 18,000 square foot building cost nearly $7 million to build. Planned Parenthood estimates the new office can handle up to 11,000 patients a year. The clinic is only miles from the Missouri border. It's positioned to accommodate patients from nearby states with strict abortion laws. In the last 2 years, the number of women crossing the Illinois border for abortions has more than doubled. On a personal level, I just have it in my heart to serve women. Mary Kate Knorr is Executive Director of Illinois Right to Life.
The purpose of a law is to set a moral standard for society.
Knorr says she's disgusted Illinois has become what she calls the abortion capital of the Midwest.
It's a travesty that this is happening in our state. It's a travesty that women come here to get an abortion.
McNicholas says Planned Parenthood is committed to giving their patients the access they need.
Why did you choose that location?
The truth is that our patients want easier access, and for some, the 13-mile drive from our St. Louis clinic to this Illinois clinic is an opportunity for them to get that care with less judgment, with less restriction, and with far fewer hoops to jump through.
CBS News has learned that the sole Planned Parenthood left in Missouri is planning to double its clinic escorts starting today. Now Now, this is in case of preparation and backlash to that new Illinois facility.
So it was a secret. It's not a secret anymore. Bravo on the reporting. I'm curious, is Planned Parenthood concerned about security?
They are concerned about security, and it's, I should mention, not just security here, but security all over the nation at these providers. We've seen a record high number in violent acts against abortion providers, so it's a very real threat for these people.
Are they getting a lot of business?
They are getting a lot of business. So as we said, the number of women crossing the border into Illinois to seek an abortion, that's more than doubled. And their existing facilities, they just can't handle it. We were at one of those. It was in a little strip mall. You had to back up in order for someone to come by. And we're going to see the capacity more than double with this new facility.
And even with that, though, we should point out that nationally abortion is at an all-time low.
That's exactly right.
It's down.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Okay, so now as you saw that video, as you can see, there were people in that town that were not approving of that clinic. They were upset. They were upset. They didn't like it. They was offended that the clinic was put in their state, in their area, because they say they don't believe in that. And as you can see, the people that want to go for abortions, they got to go from all around, travel long distances to go there. Most High is making them travel a long way, and you'll hear about it in the news. You'll hear about different places that have different rules for abortion. There's pro-life, and there's ones that want, they're for life, and there's ones that are, they want to be like, oh, well, I don't care about that. I want to do what I want to do. There's anti-abortion, and there's one for pro-choice. So you'll see things about that in the news. It's really good to check out the news. I had to get used to that too when I came to the truth. Looking at global news, not just things that happen here. They got news all over the place. And it's great if you read magazines like Midwifery Today, or pick your own book that you like to learn about healthcare. Find good midwives, read about what prenatal care is all about, read about some complications during, problems during pregnancy ahead of time. When you find out you're pregnant, go to those appointments, call your midwife, have a great support team, because we are known, sisters are known for dying from maternal mortality and infant mortality. We bleed to death, we have all these problems medically, and of course that's the curses, right? From Deuteronomy chapter 28, 15 through 68. And then, Most High gives us common sense on what to do. So I'm going to show you another video. It's just about a nurse. She was thinking one way one minute, and then another way after she saw a baby that was aborted and it was still alive. So just take a look at this.
Hey, before you leave, come and talk to me just for a second. My name is Tanya. I'm a registered nurse. Used to do mama-baby nursing. I can tell you how abortion is going to hurt you. You'll never be the same again.
When I started filming Trapped, my film about the struggles of abortion providers in the South, I never thought I'd meet a protester like Tanya. In the Black community, most people describe themselves as religious. And even if they don't personally support abortion, they also describe themselves as pro-choice.
I'm the media spokesperson for Pro-Life Mississippi. The pro-life side has won. We've already won.
How did you get involved with Pro-Life Mississippi?
I had gone to Saturday morning mass, and someone came up to me and said, would you like to go and pray at the abortion clinic with us? I said, sure. And I went out to the clinic, and I saw a picture of an aborted baby. And I fell on my knees and I wept. I couldn't pray. I could not believe it. I had an abortion when I was coming along, and it was at that time that I realized what I had done. I weep for women who are going to go down the same road that I go down, and I know how painful it is.
At the time, what made you think that you couldn't?
Fear.
What were you afraid of?
Everything. You name it, I was scared.
Were you married?
No. If I had been married, I wouldn't have been afraid of anybody finding out about my fornication. You know, which is a large part of why women have abortions. Ooh, can't let anybody know I was doing that. Ooh, can't let anybody know I'm pregnant and I'm not married. Oh, can't let, you know, just fear. Just fear. And trying to keep the secret. Come here, sweetie, before you leave, let me give you some healing literature. You cannot be on the fence like that. Oh, I can't even do this. You guys on the air now? You need to get up off the ground. Who's ready for motherhood? You know, who's ready? No one's ready. But you accept. You accept. And we're talking about money and a babysitter. My dad was a family medicine doctor. Then I have several cousins who are physicians. The black community is lukewarm. I got people in my family that got so angry with me when I started doing pro-life work. They're sitting on the fence. With abortion, there is no middle ground. Be hot or be cold. But if you're lukewarm, God will literally.
My mother grew up in New York City and Harlem in the 1950s. Her father was a physician and a surgeon at Harlem Hospital. I only knew a little bit about this part of my mother's life, so I asked her to tell me more about it.
Well, as you know, my family was the first family to move into our building. I was, I think, about 2 years old, and that was my world.
My grandfather had a cousin who was a doctor living in North Carolina. Cousin Albert had more work than he could handle, and he asked my grandfather to come south to help out. So my grandfather moved his family to sleepy Wadesboro, North Carolina, where he worked as a local country doctor.
My time in Wadesboro was very different than my time in New York. Most of his clients were very poor. People paid him in corn and butchered hogs, and so we had lots of food. My bedroom faced over a highway. It's up on a hill. And one night, all of a sudden, I see, like, on the highway, all these cars, like, in a row. And there's a trail of white sheets. I didn't know what the Ku Klux Klan was, but I knew that everybody in the house was afraid. And one night, the sheriff came. Albert poured drinks. They sat around chatting for a while. And then they took him away. He was arrested. He was arrested because a white woman reported that he had performed an abortion for her.
I never knew about this part of my family history. I knew that the issue of abortion in America has always been racially charged. But until I started making Trapped, my feature documentary about abortion, I'd never really considered how the experience of having an abortion might be different for black women.
My friends, it is a baby! It is a child!
According to the Center for Disease Control, black women have abortions at 5 times the rate of white women. Certainly the reasons are complicated, but experts point to barriers like a lack of access to education, reproductive health care, and income disparity.
You pretend to be a Christian. When are you going to come back to Christ?
Dr. Parker, much like my grandfather did, travels across the South, providing women with access to medical care, including abortion. He's become a well-known advocate for access to abortion care.
They're trying to wipe out the black race, if you've noticed. They're trying to wipe them out.
I was prepared for protesters, but it was still shocking to hear the protesters call Dr. Parker a filthy Negro abortionist. They were even disgusted with me for my position while making this film.
Are you pro-choice?
I am pro-choice.
It's easy to be pro-choice because you're not the one being killed. That's
right.
all I have to
Amen.
say.
Oh, yeah. What do you got to
That's
say
all
to
I
that?
have to say.
Hey, were you pro-choice about slavery, too? Because that was a privacy issue back in the 1800s. You pro-choice about that?
You think slavery and abortion are equivalent?
You pro-choice about slavery? Dred Scott, all that?
I don't understand your point.
Good job.
Was I pro-choice about slavery? I just wonder why you keep injecting race into the conversation.
You know, because we like black babies. Black babies matter to us, but apparently not to you. And you don't care one bit because you're pro-choice. You stand beside those folks. Good job. Good job. You're a disgrace to your race. You too, bro.
It was absolutely surreal to hear older white men lecture me about the impact of abortion on the lives of black women. Meanwhile, I was interviewing real women inside the clinics, hearing their painful stories and how hard their choices were. It made me realize just how infrequently black women.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's class. Many of our sisters will opt to order an abortion online. And as abortion continues to be a controversial topic, this will continue for some time. In light, I'd like to share with you a video of a woman who was going through some issues as she gave birth. She started out with a midwife and wound up having to go to the hospital to have a C-section. She's sharing her experience with the public. Although we're not affiliated with any other establishment and we don't share many of their views, there are some great points that she brought out about what she experienced and what she hopes to improve. So I hope you enjoy the upcoming video. Thank you for watching. All praises to the Most High in Christ blessed. Shalom.
So many women across the country, especially black women, face some of the most horrific circumstances when showing up to the hospital to give birth. Here is my story. I remember everything like it was yesterday. My water broke, and it broke like in the way, the ways at TV, water breaks and you yell, "My water broke." I was excited. I was nervous. I knew that my baby's feet were turned down. I knew that I had a high-risk pregnancy, but I was still determined to labor and give birth to my baby at home. After contracting for 24 hours, my uterus stopped contracting. I asked both my midwives, had they heard of this before? They said sometimes this happens, or your uterus is a muscle, so just relax, go to sleep. And when I woke the next day, I understood that I needed to go to the doctors to have a C-section. I remembered feeling so frightened. I never ever loved being in hospitals. In fact, I hated them. I never felt cared for being in hospital. I had some of the most traumatic instances happen to me while being a black woman in hospitals. Nurses and doctors are pretty nonchalant. I had a team of black nurses who really took care of me. And Shine, our baby, was delivered. There wasn't much care that was given to me post C-section. Doctors came around the clock to check on me, to check on Shine, but no one was actually telling me the consequences of having a C-section. And when I got home, I was around the clock feeding the baby, and I started to wheeze. And my mother said, something sounds off. I reluctantly went to the hospital. I was in so much pain still. And when I got there, they diagnosed me with pneumonia. I Googled pneumonia after C-section, and this was pretty common. Yet no one had told me this. I also received a really alarming phone call from the doctor who had seen me in urgent care. He said, "You need to come back. From some of the tests, we think you have a blood clot, and we need to make sure that we can ensure that you will be safe." And I started to Google blood clots after C-sections, which was also really common. And I started to see the number of women who died after giving birth to their child, especially after giving birth while in a hospital. Part of my work at Moms Rising is helping build a network and support the network that currently exists, the Black Mamas Matter Network. Although I survived my experience with pregnancy, many Black women haven't and won't. Will you join me in the fight to end maternal mortality and morbidity in the United States?